These photos were taken just minutes before he was brutally murdered, and the person behind the camera was the one who killed him. There are crimes that shock with their brutality, there are those that astound with their strangeness, but the Jodi Arias case is a rare instance where both elements intertwine in a single story. This wasn't a sudden attack on the street, this wasn't a random outburst of aggression, this was the story of a relationship complex, painful and tangled. A story where love gradually turned into obsession, and trust into control. When Travis Alexander's body was found in his home in Mesa, no one could believe what had happened. A young, successful man who seemed to be just beginning his life was murdered with incredible brutality. But the most horrific thing wasn't even the number of wounds. A camera was found in the house, and on it were photographs taken literally minutes before his death. From that moment on, the story ceased to be just an investigation. It became one of the most talked about crime dramas of its time. The deeper the investigation delved into the details of their relationship, the clearer it became. This wasn't just a murder. This was a story in which the line between love and danger disappeared long before the first shot was fired. And the question here isn't just what happened that day, the main question is how it all came to this. The story of Jodi Arias and Travis Alexander begins like thousands of others, a chance encounter, a casual interest, a quick connection. They met in 2006 at a business event in Las Vegas. Travis immediately noticed Jodi. She seemed calm, attentive, even a little shy. She didn't have the flamboyance he was accustomed to, but there was a quiet persistence that captivated him. Travis himself was the complete opposite. He had a knack for speaking, inspiring, and making an impression. People were drawn to him. He made friends easily and felt confident in any company. He had endured a difficult childhood, but he managed to rebuild himself, becoming successful, disciplined, and deeply religious. He strove for the right life and sought a partner who shared his values. At first, it all seemed like a perfect match. Jodi quickly became part of his social circle, began attending the same events, taking an interest in his life, and adapting to his views. She even converted to religion, which was important to Travis, a step that from the outside seemed serious and sincere. But the closer they got, the more noticeable one detail became. Jodi didn't just want to be around, she wanted to be around all the time. Their relationship quickly became unstable. Travis Alexander alternatively drew Jodi closer to him and then farther away. He saw her as the perfect girl, then as a source of trouble. Their relationship became a roller coaster of attraction and repulsion. They would get together, break up, and then start talking again. For Jodi, it became more than just romance. She became increasingly immersed in their relationship, becoming more dependent, more emotionally involved. Her reaction to the distance became increasingly acute. According to Travis' friends, she would call him dozens of times, text him, demand his attention, and check on him. Over time, strange things began to happen. Travis said he'd find Jodi at his house unannounced. Sometimes she'd show up in the city he was staying in, even though he hadn't told her he was going there. It no longer seemed like a coincidence. Meanwhile, tensions were mounting. Travis wanted to move on, to build a serious relationship with someone who matched his vision of the future. He even told his friends that Jodi wasn't right for him as a wife. But at the same time, he couldn't completely break the bond. These ambivalence only intensified the situation. He'd push her away and then let her back in. And she was becoming increasingly convinced that she had to stay in his life at any cost. By early June 2008, the situation between Jodi Arias and Travis Alexander had reached a complete impasse. Travis became increasingly distant. He was making plans for the future, preparing for a trip with friends, and, according to those close to him, was determined to move on without Jodi. He even began actively communicating with other women, and it was obvious those around him knew he was searching for the right relationship, one that aligned with his beliefs. For Jodi, this meant one thing: she was losing control of the situation. Despite the distance, she continued to monitor his life. Their communication didn't stop completely. They called, texted, and sometimes even acted as if nothing had changed. But behind this outward calm, tension was growing. At the end of May, Jodi makes a decision that would later become a key moment in the investigation. She rents a car, explaining that she's visiting friends, but the road she takes doesn't match her description. It was a long, winding road with detours and stops that made no sense unless you knew the final destination. Before her trip, she also does something else that will later raise many questions. A weapon, a .25 caliber pistol, disappears from her relative's house. No one paid any attention to it at the time. She dyes her hair darker, she changes her appearance, and then she hits the road. She spends several days on the road. At some point, she turns off her phone or makes her movements more difficult to track. Later, she will claim she was heading in an entirely different direction, but the facts will show she was heading to Mesa, to Travis' house. At some point on June 4th, 2008, Jodi Arias and Travis Alexander find themselves in the bathroom of his home. The day leading up to this point has been relatively calm. They talk, spend time together, and from the outside, it all appeared to be just another episode in their complex but familiar relationship. When they move to the bathroom, Travis Alexander takes a shower. It is here that a detail emerges that will later be discussed in court. According to the case file, Jodi begins photographing him, and it doesn't appear to be entirely consensual. According to Jodi Arias herself, Travis didn't like it. He didn't want to be filmed in such a moment. Nevertheless, the filming continues. At first, the footage appears normal, even if the situation already seems a bit tense, but then everything changes. The final photographs reconstructed by the investigation capture an abrupt transition, the moment when Travis' behavior no longer appears calm. He no longer poses but reacts. It is after this, according to the prosecution, that the attack begins. The investigation believes a shot was fired first. This was followed by a series of knife attacks. An examination revealed that there were multiple wounds inflicted sequentially with force. This did not appear to be a brief act. The process took time. Importantly, Travis Alexander didn't die instantly. Based on the blood trail and the location of the body, forensic experts determined that he attempted to move, possibly to escape the bathroom. This means that at some point he became aware of what was happening and attempted to escape. The nature of the injuries also became a key point in the trial. They indicated that the attack continued even after the outcome was obvious. This became one of the arguments in favor of premeditation. In the final stage, a fatal neck injury occurs. This, according to forensic experts, was the primary cause of death. After this, the active part of the story ends. Silence falls in the house. And it is from this moment that another part of the story begins, no less important: Jodi Arias' behavior after the incident and her attempts to cover up what happened. After it was all over, Jodi Arias made no attempt to explain what had happened or seek help. Instead, she acted as she already knew what needed to be done next. According to investigators, she spent some time in the house, attempted to clean up the mess, using water and towels, and tidying herself up, but it was impossible to completely conceal the consequences of the incident. Too many traces remained. Before leaving, she took the camera that had taken the photographs from that day. Some of the files were deleted, but carelessly. Experts were later able to reconstruct the images, including the final shots before the attack. After leaving Travis Alexander's house in Mesa, she begins constructing an alibi. While on her way, she leaves him a voicemail. Calm, casual, without any sign of panic. In it, she speaks as if nothing had happened, as if it were a normal call to someone she was okay with. Essentially, it seemed like an attempt to create the impression that she had nothing to do with what happened and that everything had been fine between them since their last meeting. She then continues her journey following a pre-planned route. She heads toward Utah, where she had planned to meet another man. Along the way, she makes stops, refuels, chats with people, and behaves as calmly as possible. At one point, she even takes photos. In these pictures, she appears relaxed and smiling, as if on a routine trip. The investigation paid special attention to the details of her trip. The car was rented not in her name, but in the name of an acquaintance. It was later discovered that the car lacked front license plate, which complicated any potential identification on surveillance cameras. Attempts to minimize her digital footprint were also recorded, limited phone use, and inconsistencies in her movements. In Utah, she met a man with whom she had arranged a trip in advance. According to him, her behavior didn't arouse suspicion. She seemed normal, calm, and showed no signs of stress or anxiety. To those around her, it was just a trip. Meanwhile, Travis' family and friends couldn't contact him. His friends began to worry. He had missed important plans and wasn't answering calls and texts. A few days later, they decided to check on him and went to his home. That's when they discovered the body.
What?
What's going on?
A friend of ours is dead in his bedroom. We hadn't heard from him for a while. We think he's dead. His roommate just went in there and...
From that moment on, the story Jodi Arias had tried to hide gradually began to unravel. The investigation quickly establishes that the last person to have contact with Travis Alexander was Jodi Arias. This makes her a key figure in the case. During the initial interrogations, she claims she didn't see him on the day of the murder. This statement becomes the first of several theories. Later, she changes her story and claims that unknown individuals were in the house and allegedly carried out the attack. However, the investigation already has evidence that contradicts these statements. The most important of these are the reconstructed photographs. They confirm her presence in the house at the time of the events. Additional evidence is discovered. Her hair is found in the house. Footprints are also recorded indicating her presence there. Analysis of phone records and travel itinerary reveal inconsistencies with her story. Under pressure from the facts, she changes her story again. Now she claims she acted in self-defense. According to her, Travis Alexander allegedly became aggressive, and she defended herself. The forensic examination does not support this version. The nature of the injuries, their quantity, and the sequence point to the opposite. the investigation is filing charges of premeditated murder. The trial of Jodi Arias begins in 2013 and almost immediately becomes one of the most talked about cases in the United States. The proceedings are broadcast live, with millions of people watching, analyzing every detail from the evidence to the defendant's behavior. The focus is not only on the crime but also on Jodi herself. She decides to testify in person and spends hours on the stand, recounting her version of events. She speaks calmly, confidently, sometimes even too reservedly for someone accused of such a crime. But over time, another detail begins to capture the public's attention: her demeanor in the courtroom. According to observers and journalists, Jodi Arias paid close attention to her appearance. She appeared at court hearing neatly dressed, with her hair carefully styled, and was meticulous about how she appeared in front of the cameras. At some point, this began to be perceived as a contrast to the charges against her. It was also discussed that she tried to control her facial expressions, gestures, and manner of speech, as if consciously crafting her image for the jury and the audience. This appeared not to be random behavior, but an attempt to create a specific impression. Against this backdrop, the prosecutor's office continues to formulate its case. They are thoroughly reviewing the events of recent days, presenting evidence including reconstructed photographs and pointing out inconsistencies in her testimony. Every time Jodi Arias' version of events is confronted with the facts, new questions arise. Her story changed several times, and this became increasingly apparent to the jury. The trial drags on, testimony, expert examinations, interrogations, all of this comes together to form a coherent picture, and at some point it becomes clear this is no longer simply one side's story versus the other. It is a clash of words and evidence, and it is the evidence that ultimately proves decisive. Following the trial, Jodi Arias is found guilty of first-degree murder. This means the court accepts the theory of premeditation. She is sentenced to life imprisonment without the possibility of parole. The case is legally closed, however, it remains one of the most talked about examples of a complex and destructive relationship that led to a tragic outcome. The story of Jodi Arias and Travis Alexander isn't just a murder case. It's an example of how destructive relationships can develop gradually, almost unnoticed, until it's too late to change anything. There wasn't a single moment that shattered everything. It was a chain of decisions, emotions, and actions that accumulated over time. From the outside, their story might have looked like a typical complicated romance, with arguments, breakups, and comebacks. But within this dynamic, there were already signs that can be ignored: obsession, control, emotional dependence, and the fear of losing someone at any cost. It's these details that often go unnoticed until the situation spirals out of control. This case makes us think about boundaries in relationships and the importance of recognizing warning signs early, because sometimes danger doesn't seem like an external threat, but rather like a person who's too unwilling to let go.